Speed and Nguyen's Deep Dive podcast is an official podcast made by Speed and Nguyen with the voice made from Google's Notebook LM. Do not reproduce our podcast without permissions from the owner. Welcome to the Speed and Nguyen's Deep Dive podcast. Imagine a movie that professional critics just actively dismiss as a complete failure.
Right.
Like they slap it with a dismal 43% rating.
Ouch.
Yeah. But now, imagine that exact same movie breaking opening day box office records in Jamaica, raking in over $120 million worldwide, and scoring this massive 94% approval rating with actual audiences.
It is such a stark contrast.
It really is. So who's wrong here? Is it the professionals who are paid to analyze cinema or, the millions of people who actually bought a ticket?
I mean, that gap between the critical consensus and the audience's visceral reaction is one of the most fascinating phenomena in modern entertainment right now.
Yeah, totally.
We're basically looking at a classic standoff between academic film theory and just raw populist emotional resonance.
Exactly. So for this deep dive, we are examining the 2024 biographical musical drama, Bob Marley, One Love.
Such a huge cultural moment.
Right. It was directed by Ronaldo Marcus Green, and the film clocks in at about 107 minutes. But, the legacy it's trying to squeeze into that runtime is just impossibly massive.
Oh, without a doubt.
We've got a huge stack of sources today for you. We're pulling from movie reviews, some really deep-cut Reddit threads, linguistic analyses from the University of the West Indies, and some hard box office data.
It is a lot of ground to cover.
It is. And our mission here is to figure out why that massive disconnect exists and to really dig into what this movie actually gets right and what it deliberately gets wrong about the reggae legend.
Because you're talking about a historical figure who completely transcends the boundaries of just music.
Right, he's an icon.
Exactly. Bob Marley represents a global movement, a political philosophy, a religious ideology.
Yeah.
So trying to capture all of that in a standard Hollywood format is inherently fraught.
Yeah, that makes sense. Well, let's jump straight into that critical disconnect. We were combing through the Sourbox Office Reddit thread for the film, and the polarization is jarring.
It's basically two different conversations.
Literally.
Yeah.
Like on Rotten Tomatoes, the all-critics score sits at that 43%. Reviewers, like the one from Rolling Stone UK, were calling it a standard biopic that was, quote, safe but satisfying.
Which is practically a death knell from a critic.
Pretty much. They basically felt it just didn't do justice to this brilliant, complex subject. But then the verified audience score is a staggering 94%.
Right.
And that's averaging 4.6 out of 5 from thousands of reviews.
But we have to look at the mechanics of how those audience scores are actually generated today, because it completely changes how we should interpret that 94%.
Okay, let's unpack this, because I'm wondering, are music biopics essentially critic-proof if they just play the right tunes?
Well, a lot of Reddit users made this exact point. They argued that these Rotten Tomatoes audience scores are actually mechanically inflated by the modern ticketing ecosystem itself.
Wait, really? How does that work?
Think about the last time you bought a movie ticket on your phone through an app like Fandango.
Oh, yeah, it's a whole process.
Right. It takes effort. You have to download the app, sync your email, create the account, put in your credit card. To get a verified rating on Rotten Tomatoes, you have to jump through all those digital hoops to prove you actually sat in the theater.
Ah, okay.
And then you have to log back in afterward just to post your score.
So it's not just a casual click.
Exactly. The psychological mechanism at play there is self-selection bias. The only people willing to exert that much digital effort to leave a review are the diehards.
Oh, that makes total sense.
You're filtering out the casual viewer who just thought the movie was...
Just kind of okay.
Right, just okay. The modern ticketing system essentially transforms existing fan bases into these volunteer marketing armies. If a movie delivers the hits and validates their existing love for the artist, those superfans are going to reward it with a perfect score, regardless of how safe the script is.
It's funny, Ziggy Marley actually leaned all the way into this divide.
He was a producer on the film, right?
Yes, exactly. And his response to the negative critical reviews was incredibly telling. He basically said his father never cared about critical reception when he was alive anyway.
That is such a Marley response.
Yeah. He said Bob Marley's goal was to speak directly to working class people, to the global South, to the disenfranchised. He wasn't making music for the critics in London or New York then, and the family wasn't making this movie for them now.
What's fascinating here is that the massive box office success serves as their ultimate vindication.
$120 million is hard to argue with.
Exactly. By grossing that much, the producers proved they successfully bypassed the traditional cultural gatekeepers. They established a direct emotional connection with the audience, fulfilling what they saw as Bob Marley's original mission.
But if the script was widely considered safe or, formulaic by those critics, something else had to anchor the film and drive that immense audience approval.
People weren't staying in their seats for the narrative structure.
No, definitely not. But looking at both the critical takedowns and the glowing fan reviews, everyone points to one single element, and that is Kingsley Ben-Adir's towering lead performance.
Oh, man. His approach to portraying Marley went far beyond standard mimicry.
Yeah, it wasn't just an impersonation.
Not at all. He didn't merely put on a wig and learn the chords to jamming. He treated the role as an exercise in full psychological and physical immersion.
The details from his interview in The Guardian are wild. It was this grueling preparation process. Beyond the expected singing and guitar lessons, he meticulously studied Marley's specific kinetic energy.
It's all in movement.
Yeah, and he would constantly practice his lines, even stealing this pale red beanie from his wife to wear around the house while running dialogue with her.
His wife's beanie. That's hilarious.
Right, he was just desperately trying to lock into Marley's physical headspace.
Ben-Adir actually articulated this highly specific philosophy about how he tackled the role, which provides basically a masterclass in how actors approach historical icons.
This is the part I loved. He shared this incredible anecdote about The Sopranos.
Yes, the mountaintop scene.
Yeah. So Ben-Adir is a huge fan of the show, and there's this famous, really ambiguous scene where Tony Soprano is standing on a mountaintop in the desert, yelling into the wind.
And you can barely hear what he's saying.
Exactly. For years, Ben-Adir debated whether Tony was screaming, "I did it," or "I get it." The audio is intentionally obscured by the wind. But recently, he finally turned on the subtitles to solve the mystery once and for all. And it turns out the line is, "I get it."
But the revelation actually disappointed him, right?
Totally ruined it for him. He realized that by finding out the literal truth, he actually lost the magic of the scene. Yeah. He concluded that in art, you do not need to intellectually understand every single literal word to understand the scene. You just need to feel the essence of the emotion being portrayed. And he applied that exact philosophy to playing Bob Marley.
It's a brilliant way to approach a character who is so mythic.
But I have to admit, I'm genuinely confused here.
How so?
I'm struggling to reconcile that philosophy with the actual production of the film. Ben-Adir says you don't need to understand every literal word, just the feeling. But the production went to obsessive, painstaking lengths to get the language exactly right.
It really did.
Like, they hired Dr. Joseph T. Farquharson, this prominent linguist from the University of the West Indies, to consult on set.
Yeah.
If the literal words don't matter, why spend a fortune having an academic ensure every single vowel of Jamaican patois is perfectly accurate? How do those two mindsets exist on the same movie set?
Well, you are touching on a massive cultural shift regarding how Hollywood treats international voices.
Oh, tell me more.
To understand why Dr. Farquharson's presence was so critical, we have to look at the linguistic history of the Caribbean. For decades, Jamaican patois, which, by the way, fans on the MMCSA subreddit noted is the preferred local spelling over the French patois, has been deeply marginalized.
Yeah, interesting.
It was historically dismissed by colonial institutions as a, quote, fake patois, just a broken, uneducated dialect of standard English.
So it was treated as slang rather than a real system.
Exactly. But linguists have fought for years to establish that Jamaican Creole, or patois, is a distinct, legitimate language.
Right.
It features a unique phonetic system and syntactic structures largely derived from West African languages, overlaid with English vocabulary. By bringing in Dr. Farquharson, the filmmakers weren't just checking a box for accuracy.
They were making a statement.
They were actively participating in the cultural validation of the language. They were refusing to treat Marley's native tongue as mere slang.
And Ben-Adir fought incredibly hard to protect that structure, too. He flat out refused to water down the dialogue for global audiences.
Good for him.
Yeah. He insisted on maintaining Marley's unique, rapid-fire phrasing, even when it became practically indecipherable to an untrained ear.
Which is a huge risk for a major studio film.
Definitely. But he told The Guardian, if we shy away, we shoot ourselves in the foot. He knew that a viewer in Nebraska or a critic in London might miss half the syllables, but the cadence just had to be authentic.
Which perfectly resolves your confusion about the Sopranos anecdote.
It does.
Yeah. Ben-Adir wasn't saying the words themselves are unimportant. He was arguing that the audience's literal comprehension of those words is secondary to the emotional weight they carry.
Oh, I see.
By speaking perfect, uncompromised patois, Ben-Adir delivers the raw, unfiltered essence of the man. The audience feels the truth of the performance and the rhythm of the language, even without subtitles.
Okay, here's where it gets really interesting, though. We just explored this incredible, meticulous dedication to the raw, unfiltered truth of the language and the physical performance.
Right.
But when you examine the script itself, the narrative is highly curated. Honestly, it is heavily sanitized.
Highly curated is a very polite way to put it.
Right. It's almost like applying a beauty filter to a biography. The filter doesn't lie about who is in the picture, but it deliberately smooths out all the blemishes and messy background details, so you only focus on the glowing, idealized version of the subject.
And that contrast between the gritty realism of the performance and the glossy idealism of the script is exactly what alienated the critics.
Yeah, that makes sense.
MovieWeb actually published a really thorough breakdown of the film's factual deviations, highlighting what was left on the cutting room floor.
Yeah, we looked at that. And I mean, the film does an excellent job capturing his macro-level push for peace, particularly the build-up to the One Love Peace concert.
Which was a massive deal.
Huge. It was an attempt to quell a literal civil war brewing between rival political factions in Jamaica. But the movie aggressively downplays the more controversial aspects of his daily reality. First and foremost, his relationship with marijuana.
Yeah, in the public consciousness, Bob Marley and marijuana are basically inextricably linked.
Totally. The movie briefly shows his arrest in London for possession, but it frames it almost as this minor inconvenience.
Right.
It completely strips away his profound advocacy for the plant. For Marley, marijuana wasn't recreational. It was a holy sacrament deeply tied to his Rastafarian religious beliefs.
It was utilized to induce meditative states, achieve higher consciousness, and bring the user closer to Jah, or God.
Exactly. But the film minimizes this core religious practice to avoid alienating a mainstream PG-13 audience.
And the second major omission is perhaps even more jarring given the central narrative of the film.
His personal life.
Oh, yeah.
The movie frames his marriage to Rita as this fairly conventional, romantic, one true love story. They show a brief moment of jealousy, but that is a massive understatement.
To put it mildly.
Right. The reality is that Bob and Rita essentially had an open marriage. He was notorious for his affairs and fathered children with at least 6 other women during their relationship.
Including his highly publicized long-term relationship with Cindy Breakspear.
Right, who won Miss World in 1976.
And is the mother of his son, Damian Marley.
Yeah, and that affair caused a deeply complicated, painful dynamic with Rita. But the movie essentially sweeps that entire messy human reality under the rug.
Just to present a unified, romanticized vision of a family man.
Right. So again, I'm finding myself pushing back against the production's logic. If you are going to hire a university linguist to ensure the vowels of his language are historically flawless, why whitewash the man's actual life, his religious practices, and his family dynamics so thoroughly?
This raises an important question, and it is the single most vital lens through which to view any biographical media. Who controls the narrative? We have to look at the names listed as producers on this film.
That would be Rita Marley, Ziggy Marley, and Cedella Marley.
Exactly. It is a fully family-authorized project.
Okay, yeah.
When the heirs of a global icon control the cinematic rights, they are rarely interested in funding a gritty, warts-and-all documentary about their father's infidelities.
That's true.
They are constructing a monument. The family made a calculated decision to focus the screenplay strictly on his unifying philosophical message, intentionally bypassing the complicated realities of his personal life that might distract from that message.
So the myth takes precedence over the man.
Well, they would argue that focusing on the myth is actually a truer representation of Bob Marley's ultimate purpose.
How so?
There was a famous quote from Marley that basically serves as the thesis statement for the entire film. He said, "Me only have one ambition, you know. I only have one thing I really like to see happen. I like to see mankind live together, black, white, Chinese, everyone, that's all."
Wow.
And he followed that up by saying, "My life is only important if me can help plenty people."
So the family's logic is that the tabloid gossip of his affairs doesn't help people.
Right.
The advocacy for a controversial substance might distract people, but the core message of global unity, that helps people. By sanitizing the flaws, they ensure the philosophy is what takes center stage.
The curation of his life story is merely a delivery mechanism. The family constructed a safe, accessible narrative vehicle to transport his greatest and most enduring legacy to a new generation.
Which is the music itself.
Yes.
And when it comes to the music, I mean, the execution was flawless. If you look at the discussions on their AMCA Saylist subreddit, fans who caught this in premium cinemas were having borderline transcendent experiences.
Oh, I believe it.
People were specifically raving about hearing the film in Dolby Atmos theaters. One user mentioned the audio mix alone brought them to tears by the final act.
We really have to consider why reggae music, in particular, benefits so massively from advanced theatrical sound design.
Oh, yeah.
Reggae is fundamentally anchored by the interplay between deep, resonant drum and bass lines and the sharp, offbeat rhythmic guitar, which is known as the skank.
So it's a highly physical genre of music.
Precisely. In a premium theater equipped with Dolby Atmos, the subwoofers are calibrated so that the audience physically feels those bass frequencies vibrating in their chest cavities.
That sounds incredible.
It transforms a passive visual medium into a tactile, concert-like physical experience. And this ties perfectly back into Ben-Adir's philosophy of feeling the art rather than just observing it. The theater's audio engineering literally forces you to feel the music.
And the studios, Island Records and Tough Gong, they capitalize on that musical momentum brilliantly.
Yeah, they didn't just drop a standard album.
No, they released 2 entirely different albums capturing 2 different sides of his legacy. You have the original motion picture soundtrack, packing 17 tracks, which includes the untouchable original recordings and live performances that made up his multi-platinum legend compilation.
That album serves as the historical record, the anchor.
But then they dropped a separate EP titled Bob Marley, One Love music inspired by the film.
Oh, those covers are fantastic.
They are so good. It features contemporary artists covering his classics. You have country superstar Casey Musgraves delivering this stunning, stripped-down version of Three Little Birds. Then R&B artist Daniel Caesar smooths out Waiting in Vain, and Leon Bridges provides an incredibly soulful take on Redemption Song.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, the dual nature of these soundtracks perfectly illustrates how Bob Marley's legacy actually functions in the modern world.
How do you mean?
On one hand, you have the historical genius of Bob Marley and the Wailers, the foundational texts that remain completely untouchable. But on the other hand, you have this living, breathing reinterpretation of his work by modern artists across wildly different genres.
So his influence isn't frozen in amber in the 1970s.
Exactly.
It's constantly being adapted and translated by new generations. Whether it is Casey Musgraves adapting his lyrics for a country audience, or Kingsley Ben-Adir adopting his physical posture for a cinematic audience, the art continues to mutate and survive.
The music serves as the bridge between the historical reality of the man and the modern, enduring power of the myth.
So what does this all mean for you, the listener, the next time you fire up a music biopic? I think it comes down to engaging as an active, aware consumer of media.
100%.
When you buy a ticket to watch a film about a historical icon, you have to mentally separate the cinematic art from the historical record. You can absolutely sit in a Dolby theater, let the pristine bass lines rattle your chest, and enjoy a deeply satisfying, crowd-pleasing, emotional experience.
You don't have to feel guilty about enjoying it.
Right. But you can enjoy that experience while remaining critically aware that you are watching a highly curated, family-approved Instagram filter of a life, rather than a gritty, factual documentary of a deeply flawed human being.
Being aware of the sanitization doesn't invalidate the emotional weight of the film. It simply adds necessary context to your viewing experience. And I want to leave you with a final provocative thought regarding that exact tension.
Lay it on us.
Think back to Kingsley Ben-Adir's realization about Tony Soprano shouting into the wind.
Okay.
He argued that in art, intellectuals often ruin the magic by demanding the literal, factual details, when the true goal is simply to feel the essence of a thing. Is it possible that a sanitized, straightforward movie, one that deliberately smooths out the messy, contradictory edges of Marley's life to make global audiences purely feel his core message of unity and love, is actually a more authentic tribute to his spirit?
Oh, wow.
Does a beautifully crafted myth ultimately serve an artist's legacy better than the cold, hard truth ever could?
See you again in the next episode of this podcast.